Hi there, Glocal citizens. Welcome back to the podcast that inspires a borderless mindset around manifesting a new world. I am your host, Florence Adjei, coming to you from a lovely afternoon in Accra. I'm in the airport residential area, which I don't think I've ever recorded from here before. It's a lovely family home that has a garden. I hope you hear the trees, and that was part of the reason why we selected it as a location, so I'm happy for that. And I'm so happy to be discussing life and all these things with my guest today. We've known each other for such a long time, but we've never sat down like this before, so I'm so excited. So let me get to her bio, and we'll take it from there. She's a storyteller, producer, director, and a cultural activist. And as the founder of Sweet Roots Media, she leads a women-driven media hub dedicated to amplifying cultural narratives and preserving history through high-quality storytelling. Their work spans documentary, scripted, brand storytelling, and immersive experiences, all crafted to resonate on a global scale. Beyond media, she's the founder of Durier, a bold jewelry brand that celebrates heritage, beauty, and self-expression. Every piece tells a story, designing not just as an accessory, but as a keepsake to be passed down. She's also deeply invested in archival work and co-founded Korabea, which focuses on preserving, protecting, and uplifting the stories of Ghanaian women, both past and present, through exhibitions, educational projects, and a forthcoming podcast. Woo! Woo! Maame Adjei. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Hi.
It's really cool to sit here with you like this.
Yes. Yay.
And have a little chit chat.
Yay. I love it. So let's get started.
Sure.
Where are you from? Where are you local? And what is your craft?
I'm from Ghana. I'm local to Ghana, Accra. What is my craft? My craft is telling stories in whatever form or medium they come out of my mind, my soul, my body. And for the last few years, that has been film, that has been jewelry, that has been archives, but it's come in different forms at different points in my life. It started off furniture. I was reupholstering furniture. That was my form of storytelling. So it shifts. But at the core of it, I'm a storyteller at heart. And I love being a part of a storytelling process, and I enjoy stories in all forms.
Yeah, kindred spirits. Yes. I love that. Yes. I love that. Okay, why don't we ask why the where? How did you come to be living, working, and playing where you currently are? Yes.
Wow, that's such a journey. So, I was born in Ghana, and I moved out of Ghana before I was 1. My dad had to move, so we moved. And between 1 and 16, I lived in a few different places. I lived in Philadelphia for sort of a big stint from college till about 2013 when I decided to come back to Accra and be local. And at the time, I felt like there was a shift happening in my world, in my internal world, and I felt like I needed a new place to sort of jump into that shift. I wasn't sure what it was. And Ghana was the most familiar place to me. So I decided this is the place. If I'm going to jumpstart anything new, I'm going to come back home and be local. And almost 13 years later, I'm still here. And people ask me all the time, like, wow, you're still here? How come? And I think I say at the core of it, I'm my happiest here. And it doesn't mean that it's perfection.
Yeah, exactly.
Not at all.
Yeah.
But if I strip everything away, I feel most at peace here. And I feel that here, my possibilities still feel like possibilities here, at least for right now.
Sure.
That could shift, but for right now, especially having a son, I can't imagine being local anywhere else right now.
Yeah. Interesting. So we came about the same time.
Yeah.
Me, I'm not the full plunge.
Yeah.
I'm half. Tell us about that, Accra, because at that time you were doing, was this in the midst of an African city, right?
Yeah, I think that maybe I moved and maybe a year later an African city happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So tell us about that journey and that Accra and then the African city experience.
Yeah, it's so different. I mean, I remember being a creative. So I wasn't a creative before I moved to Accra. I was in healthcare, finance on the back end. And so I jumped into the creative scene as a fresh creative, like now trying to find what that means in my life. And I actually started with the travel show because I had lived in Ghana, but I hadn't really traveled Ghana. So I was like, the first thing I want to do is travel Ghana, just for myself to understand my country a bit more. And then somehow that turned into a travel show. But I remember at the time, I feel like the creative scene was just like, people were just starting to dip their toe into it. Obviously, we've always had a creative scene.
Yeah.
But I feel like at that point, it was more en masse. Like there was more.
It was a movement.
It was a movement, you know, and not just creative scene as a hobby, but creative scene as like, this is what I'm putting all my eggs into this basket. And you could feel that, you know? I remember looking for a camera person, a DOP, and I couldn't find one. And somebody was like, oh, go to NAFTY, the film school. And I went to NAFTY.
Exactly. Same.
And I found a camera guy. And we kept it moving.
Yeah.
But now a DOP is a dime a dozen. There are amazing DOPs and videographers and photographers everywhere. And I think that's beautiful. But yeah, Accra at that time, there was just an energy. There was just an energy when you know something is about to take off. And I think that's what an African city was for me, and I think for audiences. It was like a fresh take on what storytelling could look like from this side of the world.
And about this side of the world.
And about this side of the world.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I feel like that project did a lot to sensitize the diaspora, right? Because in each of those stories I was experiencing it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is everyday life. And so people are like, is that really it?
Yeah. Because people hadn't seen that side of Accra or Ghana or what modern African women look like, or diasporans coming back, what that experience was like. So a lot of it was like, it's just real experiences. And I love that I can say that show was sort of an early journey for a lot of people to understand how cosmopolitan an African city could be, and how you could have a blend of Western ideals and African greatness at the same time. There's friction between the two at times, but they can coexist. And I think African City was a bit ahead of its time.
Yeah.
It was definitely ahead of its time, but in a good way. In a good way.
It helped moved.
For sure.
Moved people.
Moved the needle,
And so how did that then, I think that helped you move also into the full-on creative that you are. And so thinking about how you, beyond going to NAFTY and getting a DP, how have you built your craft into where it is now?
Honestly, if I had to think of, there's so many ways, but I think the most pivotal has been collaboration. I've always been an idea bank. You know, I've always been a person who has, I want an idea. I have an idea to do this. When I was moving to Ghana, I said I was going to start an interior decor business as a side business. So I bought all the books. It's like, that's what I wanted to do. And then another project, I always go back to all these ideas that I had that are just, you know, I wanted to start, I wasn't even a mother. I wasn't thinking of becoming a mother, but I wanted to start this hub for mothers called the Cocoa Pod. And I wanted to teach Lamaze classes and all these things. And now that I'm a mom, I'm like, what the hell was that? Why? But yeah, I've always had ideas, and I don't have an educational background in filmmaking or creativity. So it was really sort of networking across with other people that were creatives or wanted to be creatives or were telling stories, and just taking our little ideas, putting our little gifts, tools, talents together, and pushing, you know, and creating the thing. That is how I've built my craft. Creating imperfectly and then refining as you grow. It's the only way. It's really the only way for me. It's like, that's how I've learned everything. It's just doing the thing, doing it as wonky as you can, and then building on it. From that, the next thing comes and the next thing comes. So it really has been collaboration and just, you know, on the job training.
The elephant in the room is, how do you fund that? You know, yes, exactly. So tell us a little bit about, let's say, pick one of your projects and take us on the journey of the business side of getting it to fruition.
I think the best example I could use right now is Duria because
Yeah.
it's the most recent and the clearest. So I started Duria during COVID, before I was even pregnant. And I always wanted to do a product-based business. And so COVID, everything had slowed down. I was like, this is the time. And I remember sort of going through the process of like sketching, okay, this is this is what I want to do. I was going to produce in Rwanda, sending the sketches to the person in Rwanda, and then him giving me the breakdown of the cost. And I remember I had some savings. And I was like, am I going to take out my money and put towards this thing that is just an idea? What if it doesn't work? And I don't know. I think at that moment, I just heard a voice that said, do it. And I did it. And Turia is 5 years old now, but it hasn't been easy. The moment I got into a product-based business, I just bow down to anybody who sells products.
Yes, I can imagine.
Because it's not easy. Once you really, I think that sometimes a lot of people are more focused on the aesthetic of the brand than the business behind it. But once you really are looking at the numbers, you start to question, is this making sense? And we are 5 years old, but people are now getting to know us because everything has moved so slowly. In 5 years, we've had 3 collections. That's a funding issue, right? So it's like, we're not turning around the money fast enough to have a collection every twice a year or even once a year. I have to sell through the products I have to then be able to order a new collection. Marketing, that's money. So you're not hearing about the brand because maybe I don't have the funding dollars to market. So it's not easy. Like people always ask, especially for creative businesses, like where do we find the money? I'm like, I don't know. I still don't know. So our current collection, we got an investor. And I like to be fully transparent about that because sometimes you see a business sort of grow and you're like, oh, how do they do it? They're doing so well. I think it's important for business owners, especially product-based businesses, to be transparent about when an injection comes in that allows you to do certain things. Because sometimes if that injection doesn't come in, it's just not possible. I don't think I would have been able to produce a new collection and create the content and the push that we're doing right now without that injection of money from an investor. And that's somebody who believed in a product-based business. That's so rare. I couldn't even tell anyone. And that's somebody, I think the person probably believed in me as a person more than the business. I think that was probably even a relationship type investment. Like, oh, I know this person. She seems like a smart. She said, so I'm going to, rather than, is this really viable? Because it's just a hard time to move commodities.
Definitely. I appreciate that. And it's so interesting because I didn't even know until you did your video. And I love that. Yeah. So Maame has a video that she put out earlier this year, and she started to allow me to reintroduce myself. And I love that because so many of us are in these, and I think that has been me because I came from real estate and all this stuff. And even when I was in economic development, my friends were like, what did she do? I don't really know. And so then went in the lab and I'm doing these other things. And so, yeah, there's so many aspects of people we know that we don't know. So that was good marketing.
Thank you. And that was so hard to put out. I think whenever I posted, I had recorded that video maybe 3 months before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And everything, the blockage, like,
it was great. Okay, yeah, but I loved it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yay, nice. So where can we find Duria?
You can find Duria on our website, so www.duria.com. If you're in Accra, we stock at El Loco.
Okay, yeah.
If you're in Ivory Coast, we stock at a concept store called Collier Concept.
Oh, I like that place.
Anyway, I love it.
Yeah.
Anywhere else in the world, you can find us online. We ship globally, straight to your doorstep.
Nice. Lovely pieces. Check it out.
Yes, please.
Okay. So that's on a product-based business. And so I remember when you were Girl Going
Places.
Girl Going Places. So was that part of your travel?
That was my travel show.
That was your travel show.
Yeah.
Okay. But I saw mostly things that were outside of Ghana.
No.
Most of it was inside.
Yeah, all the Girl Going Places episodes, we only did one season and it was in Ghana. And that was self-funded, so it couldn't have been outside of Ghana. So
okay. So I think you may have been using the handle because you were in Paris.
Okay, so maybe as I was traveling on
Then you
my
would add.
Instagram, then I would
Okay,
add.
got it.
I would add sort of elements of my travels on our
Okay.
socials. But
Okay,
the
got
show itself
Yeah.
was just Ghana.
Ah.
Yeah. And the goal was to expand to all 54 countries because I really, at the time, it was like, people coming to Africa was such a wilderness energy for people. And I was like, I want people to see, it's not just safari, and then in the next 3-4 years, people were coming to the continent like it was nothing. I think with Year of Return, that just opened up where I felt like it's not necessary anymore. Like people are coming to see for themselves and that's the goal. Let's move on to the next thing. Yeah.
Yes, good. That's the great thing about being able to tell a concise story, right? Like that story did its thing.
Yep.
It's where it is.
Yep.
All good.
All good.
So speaking of travels, let's talk about Glocal speak.
Okay.
So it's a word or phrase or saying that's a meaningful part of your local experience and why or how you come to value it as Glocal speak.
I wish I had thought about this earlier. Let me think. A word or phrase. I think for me it's probably Igobi.
Igobi? And it's the truth.
Igobi, one way or another. Igobi.
Yes.
Igobi. It's like, it will be what it will be, when it will be, it will be.
Yeah.
It will be. It reminds me of that. I think it was Glorilla or somebody that said, at the end of the day's going to end. That's
I love that.
That's what Igobi is. It's like, whether it's going to be good or bad, we don't know, but Igobi.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good one. And that's Pidgin, by the way.
That's Pidgin, yeah.
Do you speak any other languages?
I speak Tree fluently, yeah.
Okay. What was your first language? Or were they simultaneous?
I think they're probably simultaneous. Is that true? No, because when we moved back to Ghana, I couldn't speak Tree. I think it probably started out being my first language, got lost in the mix. But when we moved back to Ghana from London when I was 5, I couldn't speak Tree. So I remember my mom telling the kids in the house, only speak Tree, only speak Tree. So yeah.
Okay, that works.
Yeah.
Perfect. You fit into this Ghana culture. So you've been a storyteller, but you veered and did the health thing and all that good stuff. But when did you first realize that you were a storyteller?
That's a great question. I think I've always known. And so if I think back, like, I couldn't describe it as storyteller, but I've always been interested in stories. And the first thing that comes to my mind is since I was a child, so I'll say maybe like 9 or 10, I've been obsessed with obituary books from funerals. So when my mom would go to a funeral, she would always, even till today, collect it. So she went to the first Nana Koredo Ajiman Rawlings funeral and she brought me back the book. Like any funeral that she goes to, she says, I have the book. And this started over 30 years ago. And I just was always intrigued by somebody's life story, like the beginning, the middle, the end. Like I just remember just always being so interested in that. And so I feel like maybe that was the first time that I could say that. I didn't have the word for it, but I knew that stories moved me. Yeah, stories move, especially stories about people, like human stories moved me.
So our tradition kind of seeped into your capturing of stories in the mind. That's a great, I recently was saying that I think my storytelling started with literally making up stories. First, like verbal stories, just to entertain, not lying. But literally saying...
Good clarification.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But literally story time, right? And then I think that I probably was also a storyteller. So I have these cousins that I grew up with, and they were boys, and I didn't have brothers. So we all kind of, after school, would get together, and they had action figures, and I had Barbies. So we would choose which we would play. And so that's where I feel like my storytelling was part of the bloom, because we would create these scenarios and then we would act them out. And then that was always a thing. So that's interesting.
There's always
memory.
a point in childhood that you can pinpoint to and say, this is where I was honing in on this natural
narrative thing or something. Yeah. Cool. So let's talk about your storytelling now. Okay. So you are a founder of Sweet Roots Media. Tell us about Sweet Roots.
Sweet Roots it's just born from, when I moved back to Ghana, I just felt like there was so much that I didn't know about where I'm from. And there was just so many stories. I think my passion for this idea of loving obituaries is also sort of the beginning of the idea of archiving, and just people's lives from the past. And I realized there's just so much beauty in things that we don't know. And I think a lot of our storytelling is from the oral tradition. But as I was sort of digging deep into just the archives of who we were as Ghanaians, I just felt like there were so many stories that are left out, even for us as Ghanaians, but then on a global scale, people have no idea. It's like, I think in general, when it comes to the stories of Africans on the continent and in the diaspora, it's like colonialism, slavery, and everything in between. But it's like, I just started thinking, like, I want to know what it was like to be a Ghanaian university student in 1965.
I love it, yeah.
You know, it's like, where were they hanging out? What was dating like? Like, just like the minutia of life that really, when you put it all together, that becomes the fabric of a people. And so Sweet Roots was born of like, telling the story of our roots, the sweet story of our roots, right? And digging up those gems, those hidden stories that nobody knows about, or nobody cares to explore, expound on, put out there, visualize for us first, and then for global intake second.
So when you think about the audience for Sweet Roots, where are your most sweet spots in terms of like length? Like deciding this is a short form, this is a longer form, an audio, that kind of thing.
So, actually, a lot of the work, I would say about 90% of the work that Sweet Roots has done has been client work. So we are now starting to sort of build in-house work. But even for client work, it has to match the energy that we're about. It has to match our ethos, our vision. And so it really depends on what the audience is, right? So we did a short film working with Dr. Yaba Blay called The Whites of Our Eyes, which is this beautiful short documentary about what we consider beautiful in Ghana and why. And that topic can feel very preachy very quickly when you look at the why, right? So it can easily become, we think light skin is beautiful because of colonialism. We think straight hair is beautiful because of this. But we made it a short because we felt like there was a really poetic way to tell this story that didn't feel judgmental. And that felt like really a full-scale analysis of a people and the why not being judgment, but being a question. It's like, we're leaving you with a question. There's no answers here, but take this, and this, and this, and then you go ask yourself the question, how have these things contributed to what you consider to be beautiful, And so I think you have to look at the topic and decide, where am I going to lose the audience?
Right, exactly.
Because it really is about the audience buying in. And I think certain things can be shorter, certain things need a bit more fleshing out, but it's just honing in on the poetry. Every documentary or every project has a poetry at its center, and making sure you don't lose that.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. The whites
of our eyes.
Of our
eyes, yeah.
So is that a client piece, or can we watch it?
It is not a client piece. It's a collaboration, but it's not available to watch online right now because we're on the festival circuit.
Oh, I love it. Nice. So we'll look out for that when it finally does come, because I think we're all curious about what people think about beauty and why.
I think it's probably the project that moved me the most. There's a test called the doll test. So it's a test that was done, I think, in the 50s in the States, where they took a black doll and a white doll. I've forgotten what it's called, something doll test, the name of the professor that did it. So we replicated that here in a school in Waja. And after the first kid, we had to cut, and Yaba and I just cried. We literally just cried in the corner.
Oh, I know why. In our Africa,
you would think like we picked a school that was not a school in cantonments where you think that there is some kind of influence, do you see any kind of Western, like we picked a school that is as typical of a Ghanaian school as can be. These are kids between the ages of 5 and I think 8. And I think we interviewed about 30 kids and we had 2
that picked the black doll.
Picked the black doll.
Wow.
I think as a filmmaker, there's just certain things that you don't expect that shift you internally. And that was a moment. That was a moment.
But the beauty of it, of being a filmmaker and that storyteller, is like taking in so many perspectives, right? And being kind of I don't want to say a cipher, but kind of.
Yeah, it is.
And so let's talk about archiving, because that is something that I believe will help change that narrative, right? And so when you thought about the collective and putting it together, and it's Korabea, what does the name mean?
So Korabea is in tree. It's a word that it's like a place where you hide the things that are most valued to be. So they're like, oh, Korabea, like a place where you hide something very special to you. Yeah, that's what it means.
Okay, so it fits. Yes. Okay. So when you think about preserving and protecting, what does that look like? What is the ecosystem of that in Ghana? And then how do you see it potentially being replicated across the continent?
I think it's everything, because in general, I feel like we don't have a culture of maintenance in Ghana, in general, for anything. And so that moves to our stories, right? So it's like, who's documenting, let's just take a family. Who's documenting family history? You know, if you take your own family right now, you probably know where your dad was born. You might know where your grandmother was born. Great-grandmother, do you know those lines? Do you know the histories? If you have parents that left Ghana at a certain point, do you know why? Where did they go? Who did they, like the little things that are so critical to a generational line. All that is lost in the wind because we're not documenting it. We're not holding space for it. Forget photographs. I'm getting goosebumps because I think archiving really might be, it's like if I take all my passions, I think archiving might be at the top. Again, since I was a child, images, obituaries, and my mom is a hoarder. She's a hoarder in the best of ways and in the worst of ways. So she kept everything. So my mom had Ghana Must Go bags of pictures and albums of just family from back, like her childhood, just all. And I just remember as a youngin' just slowly pulling from it and always saying that I want to, like, I'm the protector of these things. So in the family, everybody knows that I'm the keeper of things.
Yeah.
So if somebody finds something, they'll send it to me quickly.
Yeah.
At some point, she took the bags to her hometown, saying she was going to sort through it, left it in some closet, and they, mold destroyed.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, that is a whole family history.
Yes. Disintegrated. Yeah.
People's children won't be able to visualize an uncle, an aunt, or a grandmother. So for me, archiving is like, it's self-preservation first.
Right.
It's self-preservation first. Secondly, the way the world is moving, we're losing a lot of our essence to westernization. And it's not a critique because, trust me, I love westernization in certain moments. There's lots of ways that it's eased my life. But there's also part of our cultural context that we can't lose. And if we don't document that for the generation before us, it's really gone. It's really gone. Our parents, our grandparents, if we don't document it from then, like I just love, we were just talking about traditions and you knowing certain traditions within your culture, there's a lot of people that don't know. I don't think I know the nitty-gritty of certain traditions if certain things happen in my culture. If my mom's not here and my aunts aren't here, who is going to continue that? That's just going to be a thing that nobody does before. And I feel like certain things should be preserved. I also believe that there's certain parts of the culture that are just ridiculous and we should definitely throw this away. But that's how I feel about archiving. I feel like we need to document our stories for generations to come to pinpoint like who we were.
Yeah.
in relation to
Yeah.
who they are now, you know? And that's fine.
Yes.
The change can happen, but you need to have that documentation of who you were.
And I mean, it's always we know this. If you don't know where you're from, you can't really know where you're going. And a lot of it is this idea of the erasure is purposeful in a lot of ways, right? So that's that concept of that belonging, that's part of what this cultural has happened because of the coloniality of our existences. And so I too am committed to the archiving. And when I think about how we inform next generations, I'm somehow a little bit conflicted to some extent, right? Because we need the technology. Yeah. And that too also disintegrates, however, right? Because I've experienced this week, I was telling you about it. Yeah. Data doesn't always just stay on these devices. It doesn't. It disappears. And so when we really think about how we can have redundancy in the archiving chain, what does that start to look like for you?
I think I always try and start from the small to expand, because the fact is the kind of technology, the kind of space banks that we need to start archiving en masse, we don't have. Right. But we need to start archiving ASAP.
Yeah. So we have to think about it, right?
So we almost have to start where we are with what we have. Mm-hmm. And if I just take it from an individual, like take it from an institutional level, take it away from Korabea and everything, just as individuals, like in your own family, in your own life, like what are the things that you can do to hold space for your history? Like that's the beginning point for everyone. And then you can have institutions that come in and start to put a plan into how can we start to slowly comb through communities, families, archives, to start to gather these things. And more importantly, own the archives. A beautiful example is when we were doing The Whites of Our Eyes, we wanted to use a piece of Kwame Nkrumah's independence speech. I know a lot of people, we were going to go to the festival circuit, so we wanted to get the rights, make sure that we're not going to have any issues. We had to pay for that clip, $800.
Wow.
Because that clip is owned by, it's not even owned by BBC. It was owned by some other institution.
BBC sold off a lot of their rights to someone who had that capacity to manage the archive.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And I just remember feeling really pained that as a Ghanaian, Kwame Nkrumah's Independence Day speech that happened on the Polo Grounds, like 20 minutes from here, I had to pay $800 to get. GTV doesn't own it. It's just little things like that. It's like, absolutely not. Yeah. Like that has been, but we need to start anew, because in another 50, 100 years, they're going to be people like me looking into the archives and wanting to use those pieces of information to tell new stories. They shouldn't have to go and pay somebody outside of that community money to have access to a part of their history. Absolutely not.
Yeah. My mind is racing into this AI, the AI of it, right?
Yeah.
Because ultimately what would be ideal is that we train our own AIs on a lot of this archive, right? And so when I think about what you said about start where you are and then there's a policy, I'm seeing that our AI policy has to be a nationalized way of thinking about it, right? As opposed to, and everyone's, says, well, it starts a policy, but it's like who and how? But this is a good conversation to be having about it and thinking, because there's so many of us that are doing and collecting, and because especially being in the media, right? You have this, and we're paying for our storage right now. And then how?
Yeah. And how can that be shared? I would love to look through Florence's archives of her family. What are the stories there? I remember I went to the Africana Studies department at the University of Legon. They have the only archive that I know of a women's newspaper called the Sunday Mirror. It was the only women's newspaper in Ghana from about the 50s to the 70s. Just an amazing, I've been there so many times. Every time I go there, there's an issue missing. Every time I go there, there's a year that was there. The last time I went, that's not there.
Wow. And they haven't digitized it.
Sweetie, it's in this small room, and I just always say, one flood, one fire, it's a wrap. It's an absolute wrap. Painful.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're putting that on our hearts.
Yes.
To solve for that.
We are.
Yeah.
We
and so
are.
which makes me think about a mindset hack. So how do you hack your mindset?
I'm still trying to figure that out. Florence. I'm still trying to figure that out. I mean, I think, I don't want to say anything that feels too la, but sometimes I just, that's such a really good question. Yeah. I don't know if I'm at a place where I'm hacking my mindset in a way that's really helpful. Honestly, right now, I feel like I'm in a bit of survival mode, which means every day it's a push through. And I guess maybe that is a hack of the mindset. Every day it's just being like, what do I have in front of me today? And what can I execute today? What were the wins today? What were the failures today? Because I think I am hacking my mindset. Because instead of thinking too far ahead, because that brings on the fear and the anxiety, because there's so much that you want to do, so much that you need to do, and it just always feels too much. And I think trying to focus on the day-to-day has been helpful. Helpful. Not perfect, helpful. So I think currently maybe that's my mindset hack. Just focusing on the small goals for each day towards everything, towards my work, be it Korabea, Sweet Roots, Durier, mothering, family, friendship, just doing the best I can for the day.
I hear that. That's all, especially given the world we're living in right now, because it's hectic all over.
It's so hectic.
Yeah.
So it's wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Wow. So what's new and next?
What's new and next?
We're talking about staying in the moment, but I'm like, think ahead.
I have something that I'm working on this year that I'm really, really excited about. And it's just like, I feel like it's always important to share the journey, because a lot of people, you might see the end result of something and think that it happened like this. It's an archiving project that I think I started 5 years ago. And I've kept on pushing it off for different reasons, time, But this year, I've told myself, I'm doing it this year, hail, rain, sleet, or snow. And it's this retrospective of Ghanaian women's fashion over 3 decades, the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and how you can see in the fashion what was happening almost politically and economically in the country. It's such an amazing timeline of look at the size of the sleeve. Yes. That's the 90s. That's the late 80s when the food, we were coming out of famine and the food was coming back in the system and I just love being able to sort of do that research and that comparison. And luckily for me, like I said, my mom's a hoarder. So
she has all of the wardrobe.
She has everything, which has also been beautiful to sort of track her own personal history through her pieces. So I'm really excited about that project. Yeah.
Our mothers might be sisters. Well, we know they are.
They absolutely might be.
Sisters of a generation that was or is, and that's how they are.
Yes,
yeah.
That's how they are. That's how they are.
I love that. We're looking forward to that. So we talked about business. We talked about work. Who is Maame?
Oh my God.
When she's not working.
What kind of question is this? Who am I when I'm not working? When I'm not working, more than likely I'm at home. I'm a homebody. I say I'm a functional introvert. I was not a functional introvert before, but now I'm a functional introvert. I love being at home. I love being in my own space. I am a 90s music
Okay, so you're a listener.
fanatic. So I'm a listener. I'm listening to music or vinyl. I collect vinyl. So I love just putting on a vinyl, being at home.
What are some of your favorite listens?
Anything from the 90s R&B phase, but some of my favorite vinyl pieces that I own are definitely probably Stevie Wonder's. Like, these are the ones I don't let leave my sight. Songs in the Key of Life, Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson's Thriller, and then The Emotions. I actually had never heard of The Emotions until I found the vinyl in a thrift store. And I was like, what's this group? This was like 10 years ago. And so I love The Emotions. They're good. Yeah. So I'm really a homebody, or like I'm also a YouTube. I love YouTube.
Okay, so what are you watching?
I'm going to tell you what I watch.
Yes.
No, don't think I'm crazy.
No.
I love reaction videos
Oh
to
my
things that I've already
gosh.
seen or songs that I already know. Like
Okay.
I love people
Other people experiencing it,
something.
yeah.
I'm obsessed. Like listening to End of the Road, Boyz II Men for the first time. I'm like, isn't it amazing?
That's a good one.
I
Those are
love
good.
reaction videos. So that's my corner of YouTube, reaction videos.
Okay. I mean, it is so interesting to see people kind of out of the whole context, because we lived in the context.
Yes.
And so out of the context to discover it and be like, oh, wow.
It's so amazing.
Yeah.
It's so amazing. And I decide like whether I like a creator just based on, I'm like, if you don't give me a certain reaction at this point of the song, then you don't get it. Next video, I need to, when she does that, I need to see your, okay.
Yeah. So are you at all a reader?
I'm not such a reader anymore. And I think it's a time thing.
Yeah.
And I've tried, I think the last book that I attempted to read physically was Will Smith's biography. And I just couldn't get the time. So I did the audio. I don't like the audio books.
Oh, you didn't?
No, I didn't. I prefer like flipping through a page.
Okay.
But I'm not consistently reading anymore. And yeah, that's not a great thing. But I'm just not. I'm doing podcasts more than more than
the read
more
of
than
it.
reading. Yeah,
so
books.
podcasts. What are some of your favorite podcasts?
So there's two that I listen to consistently. There's one by Debbie Brown called I can't remember what it is, but she's like an amazing holistic, I would call her a healer, but not in a foo-foo way, in a very practical life way. I forgot what it's called, but her name is Debbie Brown. I listen to On Purpose by Jay Shetty to sort of sift through and find the interesting people. My Leak, Steele has a podcast that I like. I can't remember the name either.
But we'll look them up. They'll be in the show notes.
Yeah.
Okay, those are some good tips.
Yeah.
Nice. Mommy, this has been great.
This has been so good, Flo.
Yes.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, thank you for hosting.
Chatting. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this. I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but I am in this growth phase or change phase, and I'm founding a Pan-African Creative Trust Fund. And the concept is to create educational, informational content, but kind of what my company is meant to do. But it's meant to fund people doing this. So the trust fund funds people who are creating this educational, informational content. That is what our children need. So we're on the entire same page, like that archive. Like, so that would be a project that would be a PAC fund type project. So we're working on it.
Work on it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that's amazing. And I think that's one of the pieces that is missing hugely from the creative ecosystem on the continent.
Exactly.
Just the stories need funding.
Exactly. And the stories on information. Like, people want to fund influencers to tell, whatever. And that's its own
thing. Yeah.
But there's real knowledge that we're missing. And our children, just like you said, if we don't tell it, who's going to tell it?
Yes.
So
I love that. Any support that you need, and please let me know, because
trust. I'll be coming knocking.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Because it's for the benefit of us all.
Yeah.
So needed.
Yeah. This is awesome. So any last thoughts that you want to share with our listeners?
I think I just want to say, especially at my big age, thinking about life, I really, I've taken a lot of risks in life and becoming a creative, and I don't regret any of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if there's anything I want to say to anyone who's listening anywhere, whatever it is that you feel deeply in your soul and your spirit that you are supposed to move towards it. That's not to say it's going to be easy. That's not going to say that there won't be detractors. It's actually going to be a struggle. If that's the thing you're supposed to do, it's not going to be easy at all. Can we curse on this podcast?
Do it.
Do that shit.
And drop the mic. Mommy, thank you so much. Yes. All right, Glocal citizens, this has been another episode of the podcast. You can catch us Tuesdays with new episodes at glocalcitizenspod.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Please like, share, subscribe. Leave us a review. We love to hear from you. So tell us what you like. And until next time, bye for now.